So welcome. Wachia, walalan, bonjour, hola. So greetings as much as I know in different languages. It's really nice to see you all here. C'est un plaisir de vous voir. Merci à tous et toutes qui viennent ici pour faire une rencontre, de parler dans le génocide du Canada. So I'm thankful for all the people who have shown up, and we're talking about and remembering the genocide that Canada committed against Indigenous children. You see the children, look at them today. Those are the sizes of the children that were taken forcibly by the RCMP, who are here to protect us. They were taken. And can you imagine being a parent, an auntie, an uncle, a grandmother, a grandfather, powerless to do anything to stop the madness? And it disgusts me to hear politicians talk about remembering this day and doing nothing while they're in office. It disgusts me. It disgusts me that the Premier of Quebec said there is no systemic racism. It disgusts me that we're talking about the economics of finding those children in unmarked graves who were murdered by those who were supposed to be caregivers. It disgusts me that in the court-ordered apology by Stephen Harper, it wasn't out of the goodness of the Conservatives' hearts that they said this, but it disgusts me that he and his government burned thousands of documents when the TRC was actively involved in investigating the genocidal history of Canada. So Stephen Harper, shame on you and shame on the Conservative governments. I think about those families and the courage and the resilience we have for remembering the children who never came home and remembering the survivors. My grandmother on my father's side went to Shingwak Industrial School. She had half a day of work, maybe some of schooling, but mostly working. And her caregivers would give them watery soup and lots of lard and punish them for speaking their language by putting needles in their tongues and holding their hands over hot flames, shaving their heads, putting them in a dungeon and tying the children up downstairs in chains. This is what Canada has to be proud of, and this is the only thing Canada has to be proud of amongst all dictators and genocidal perpetrators. That's the only thing Canada has to be proud of. And why do I say proud? Because there's nothing else that I can see in this country that says that we are human beings. We are still under the Indian Act. If you pull out, those of you who pull out your card, your status card, it says an Indian under the Indian Act, the most racist piece of legislation that created the Indian residential school system. And we still have it today. And I want to remember those families and honor them. And you heard some of our traditional songs at the beginning. And those were some of the things that the doctrine of discovery and the churches and the greedy capitalists who came here from Europe, that's what they tried to destroy. But they weren't successful. So I am happy about that. I am happy we still have our languages, but they are in danger. Our languages and culture are dependent on our access to our lands, to our medicines, to the water, to feel safe in our communities, which we don't. We do not feel safe in our communities. We are constantly having to battle capitalists who come in and want to gentrify our homelands. And I am happy that you are all here, and I'm happy that our elder brother, the sun, has shone for us today to shine a light on a dark period and a darkness that still haunts us today, and to get some strength from his rays, his power. I am grateful that those stories are not forgotten. I am grateful for those survivors who told their stories in spite of the hurt that they felt and the tears that they shed. We cannot forget them. And it all began because of something that happened in Ganisadage and Ganawaga in 1990 when the people wanted to get really rid of us. The Canadian Army wanted to come in and massacre us. And afterwards in the investigation, and I want to say Akwesasne also was affected, they were also occupied. We are used to occupations. We should not be. We should not be used to being treated like garbage, whether in the healthcare system, whether in the social services system, whether in the educational system and in the courts, which are only good if you have money. The justice system only works for people who have the money to hire lawyers. And there is a site, there is a group of women, Mohawk women, not far from here, who are trying to stop an excavation that is going to happen soon, because there are bodies buried here. We need to support them. We can't just be a news item. This is for us as a daily thing that we have to go through. So please, as the constituents of the politicians, put pressure on your politicians and your government to implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. There is a law, but nobody's implementing it. To implement in the schools the curriculum about the Indian residential school system and the genocidal history of Canada, the US, France, England, Portugal, Spain. They are the perpetrators of this genocide. All of these countries that came here and took from Indigenous people. Well, we're saying, no frickin' way. We drew the line long time ago, and you still want to cross that line. And when we push back to protect ourselves, you call us criminals. Well, who are the criminals? They're free. Even if they're old people now, they murdered Indigenous children. They took away from families who don't know what happened to them. They did not record. 49% of the children who died, their deaths were not recorded intentionally. We should not be a footnote in history. We are part of history. We are part of this society. You are on our homelands, and who knows if there are graves under here that we don't know about. But this is Kanyagahaga homelands. You are walking on our homelands. I want to say to all the children here that there is a place for you where you should be protected. There is a place where children should be respected and their human rights respected. So teach them the truth. Ask for the truth from your parents. If they can't tell you, tell them to ask us. And we'll be happy to tell you. Because those children resting when they could have been home, we need to remember them. So as we look at those children who are here, we have to remember those children who never ever came home and whose parents still think of them and never had closure and still don't. Shame on Canada, shame on Quebec, shame on this society for not doing anything where we could today say there has been some success. The success I see is in all of you being here. But you guys gotta help us. Reconciliation should not be on the shoulders of Indigenous people. We want our land back. No, to Bill 96, the most authoritarian law in present existence, walking alongside the Indian Act. Si je parle votre langue, est-ce que vous m'aimez? I don't think so. Because for us in this province, we need to assimilate in order to be accepted. And I can tell you there's no freaking way that I want that for any child, any Indigenous child. For her continuous strength and support that she's given us. Now to Kevin for starting this day. We have to push together, push that wall that prevents us from saying there is progress. Everyone unite, not just on this day, but every day that you wake up and see the sun or see the moon and see your relatives walking. Hug your children and let them know that they're loved. Sanyakoa, Tanikawanaka.
Thank you. Wait. Does this work? It works? Yeah, it works. Great. Thank you, Ellen. I'm always honored when I ask you to come speak, and it's always it's like a treasure to listen to you. So I'll be calling you soon. Before I introduce our next speaker/singer, I just want to acknowledge Pop Montreal that have been a partner in this gathering, who brought the microphones and other stuff. But we really appreciate their support in this this gathering and this march. And again, Beatrice Deer is performing tonight. So go to Pop's website to buy a ticket, because she is just unbelievably talented, and you're soon going to hear it. Beatrice Deer.
Unlukut nakong miyakaigatsi ilun na siyasi ikayomagatsi sapommegatsi uvatini inun nilunu na hakasi mayonilo. Thank you all so much for being here with us to show your support and solidarity. If I can try and put into context how many unmarked graves have been found so far, I think we're about that number. Those children that were never returned and their parents never informed about the deaths of these innocent children. They could have, they should have, they would have been alive until now. They were murdered. Innocent children were murdered, not only murdered, but tortured. And they don't teach that in our schools. They don't teach you in your schools about that dark, very dark and horrific crimes done by the leadership of this land. It's absolutely appalling. And we still see the effects of intergenerational trauma. Please, if you want to show your true solidarity and support, please do your research on intergenerational trauma and look at the 94 calls to action. These calls to action are meant to change the future for the better, for us Inuit and Indigenous, and our relationship with non-Indigenous people. It has to start somewhere. We've been trying to do this for so long, and it takes a lot of daily work. We're always fighting against systems that are against us. Health system, justice system, education system, all these institutions deny and refuse to teach the history of what was done to us indigenous people, and that's not right. You have to demand your institutions to include indigenous history in the curriculum, in your corporations. Ask your human resources, can you bring in indigenous people to talk about their history? Can we learn about indigenous history in this corporation? How can we support indigenous people, organizations? We need a lot of support. We need a lot of partnership. We can't do this alone. And it's beautiful to see children. And I can't imagine having my children being taken by force and never returned. Many of you have children. Keep that in mind, keep that in your heart. Imagine a stranger, complete stranger who doesn't speak your language, stealing, kidnapping your child and not being held accountable. And then you wonder why we have homeless people, indigenous homeless people. This is intergenerational trauma. They're not there by choice. We have a lot of pain in our history, a lot of unacknowledged pain by our perpetrators. And systemic violence exists very much in Quebec. And for our the premier who denies it is, you can just see how blind the government is. Blind. And do your share. How you can do your share is keep wearing orange, keep sharing on social media these justice movements like this today. Keep sharing, keep putting pressure. We need our politicians to see that there is pressure, not just from us indigenous people. We've been fighting for hundreds of years. But with you, there's power in numbers. So keep doing that. Just keep coming, showing up today. That means a lot. It means a lot. You may say it's not much, but coming out here to spend a couple of hours with us, to show Montreal, to show Canada that you care. People are doing the exact same thing around the country, across Turtle Island. So we're here, they're there, they're over there. So the more number, the higher number we are, the more powerful we are, the better, bigger impact we have. So keep doing this. Educate your children. Demand your schools, your elementary schools, your high schools to invite indigenous speakers. We have to start teaching the young. So there's no ignorance. We can't use that excuse anymore. We can't say, oh, I didn't know. We can't use that lie anymore. We need to use the truth. The truth will set us free.